Hi people, Marino Regenberg again. As the header states, in this video I'll be talking about the concept of happiness. And this is a humdinger. This is really a difficult one for the average person, along the lines of, if you ask anyone what it means to be happy and whether they're happy, they won't be able to give you a clear, coherent answer, at least most of them. They won't be able to give you an answer that they're sure about. Let me put it that way. They won't be able to just ask anyone on the street. They'll tell you, yeah, sure I am. But it's obvious that they don't mean it, or that it's not serious, and that they haven't given the matter serious thought. And they just, I don't know, when you go into detail, you just shrug. They just act like this, I don't know, why that question? You know, they'll immediately try to change the subject, or they'll want to know why you're asking them that question. Because people, generally speaking, don't even know if they're happy. They don't know what they want in life. And they don't know what happiness really is. And I don't blame them, because happiness is difficult to define. Generally speaking, people define happiness as being content with one's existence. The general consensus would be amongst people is that if you're happy if you're, generally speaking, satisfied with your life. And honestly, in reality, that's not even true. That's not even the case in reality. Because there are plenty of people that are, at the very least, moderately content with their lives, but at the same time, they're not happy, really. I mean, generally speaking, that's the case, but more often than not, in a surprising amount of situations, they're still not happy. Just because you're content with your life up to a certain extent or degree or level doesn't mean that you're automatically happy. I think plenty of people can attest to that. And you know, you have to think about it, what makes a person happy. And I'm really going to touch on a subject here. One of the most fundamental things that can be misconstrued as happiness, or one of the most fundamental components of happiness, is ignorance. That's why the saying ignorance is bliss exists. Bluntly put, the dumber you are or the stupider you are, the happier you are. I mean, what you know can't hurt you. All of these sayings hint at the fact that ignorance is, at the very least, partially responsible for happiness. People that are, generally speaking, happy, these people seem happy, they seem content overall, from a mental perspective at least. Notice that these people are stupid, generally speaking, airheads. They're not people that are self-aware. We're talking about seriously self-aware of the world and everything that is conspiring in it. And that's not a good thing, of course, because I've said this to people in the past, that I would much rather be unhappy for the rest of my life and be knowledgeable on the things I know and how the universe works and how the world works, than the other way around, than be a happy imbecile that has no idea what's going on. I mean, it's almost like, I'm not insulting dogs here, but it's almost like a dog, you know. Ignorance just breeds happiness. When the dog sees you, the dog, as his master, the dog just waggles his tail back and forth, or wags his tail back and forth. The dog has no real serious further thought pattern on the world and existential being, because the smarter you are, the unhappier you are, or that's how you might come off to the world. And that is indeed the case in reality. I myself have that, okay? I am the majority of people that know me, even people that have never met me physically, people that have seen me online, especially back in the past, people always used to pester me about the fact that I never smiled or anything like that, that I always, it seemed always like I had a dark cloud hanging over my head. But yeah, one thing that people don't realize is that this kind of divine knowledge and all the power that comes along with it, and vice versa, weighs heavily on your soul. So it weighs tremendously on you. And that's why I have more of a serious demeanor. But that's obvious, because the things I talk about are serious topics. I'm not talking about sunshine and lollipops and rainbows and shit. No, I'm talking about serious things that are existential. And yeah, it's no laughing matter. And I don't mind that. Honestly, I prefer that. I mean, I'm not a teenage girl skipping across. I'm not some airhead. I'm not some dumb blonde or teenage girl just skipping across street. No, I'm an actual serious person. Me being who I am and doing what I do, this is more of a given. I mean, I think I'd look like an idiot if I were some happy idiot occultist that went like this. I would look like an absolute idiot. But yeah, my point is that yeah, ignorance is bliss, and ignorance is one of the prime reasons for happiness in people that you see. And I can't think of any other factors that come to mind. Generally speaking, people that don't overthink things. Again, it just hints again at the intellectual factor. People that don't overthink things, or people that are simply simplistic in nature. They just go about daily life and they take everything as it comes. Almost so primitive that I want to call it animalistic. These people, generally speaking, are happy, or they appear to be happy to the outside world because they're completely unaware. Again, like I said, ignorance is bliss. Almost every example that I want to come up with leads back to that saying, ignorance is bliss, and it stems through like no other. That's why it's still one of my favorite sayings. And opposite ignorance is bliss is one of Solomon's phrases: he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. That's also what it means, and I already explained it, I think, in another video, I think last year or a while further back, is that it's normal, literally, he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. The more you know, the more serious you become, because the knowledge weighs heavily on you mentally. The more you're aware of how the world works, the more you realize how deplorable the world at the very least can be and is in general. And it doesn't paint a smile on your face for obvious reasons. I mean, when you're aware of all the negativity and you can clearly see that the negativity outweighs the positivity, 10 to 1, you name it, then it automatically leaves you feeling, like this. It doesn't necessarily put you in an unhappy state, but it does make you more serious, and seriousness more often than not, to society at least, is misconstrued as being unhappy. So yeah, all of that being said, the question that I'm going to answer now, or at the very least try to answer, is what should one do about this? For all of you out there that are wondering, what should I do about happiness? Should I pursue happiness? What should I do to make myself happy? To just be happy in the sense of being fulfilled and content at a spiritual level, because that's loosely stated the definition of happiness: being content with one's existence as a whole. My best advice is to simply not think about it. The mistake that a lot of people make out there, even I think a lot of you watching this, is that people make the mistake along the lines of, somewhere down the road, society has conditioned most of us to believe that we should aspire to happiness, that we should aspire to being happy and joyful and simply blissful overall, when that's absolutely not true in reality, because that's not the way real life works. So my advice to anyone watching this, in relation to the questions I just put forth, the questions you might ask yourself the questions you might ask yourselves, in the sense of, hey, listen, if I want to be happy, what should I do to attain happiness? My answer to that question is simply don't. Don't think about happiness. Do not think about being happy. Just don't think about that. In short, happiness is overrated, period. That's my answer. Happiness is overrated. Happiness is some myth that society has placed upon our shoulders, or it's simply something that society almost has conditioned a lot of people, and a lot of people just immediately accept it at face value. Happiness is simply something that society has told you, the same way that society tells you, a lot of people out there, that you're not really complete or fulfilled unless you're seeing someone, unless you're in a relationship. A lot of people, have that stupid thought pattern or frame of mind or frame of thought. They think that, the same way that society literally conditions you with things like Valentine's Day and so on, to tell you that you're no one, or that you're simply lacking something in life if you're not seeing anyone, that you're lesser, if you will, when it's absolute bullshit completely. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. And people that are actually able to think further and think for themselves, and the people that are stronger than the average person, or just strong overall in terms of self-assurance and self-confidence, know that it doesn't really matter. The same way that society also tells you that you're only successful if you, aside from what I mentioned, aside from the fact that you're seeing someone, that you have a lot of friends, that you're supposed to be a social person, and generally speaking, anti-socialism is frowned upon, blah, blah, blah. That's all nonsense. That's all a myth. That's literally just superficial mumbo jumbo and has no basis in reality whatsoever. In that same vein, in that same context, my answer to anyone that seeks out happiness is do not. Just don't, period. Happiness is overrated. It doesn't matter whether you're happy or not, okay? Don't think about happiness. Just focus on what you want in life and focus on your existence and what you want and your role within the universe as a being. I don't want to say your role as a human being in the world, because that's too restricted or limited. Focus on your existence as a being in the cosmos, in the universe. Okay? Either from an esoteric as well as a non-esoteric perspective. Happiness is overrated because it doesn't matter in essence whether you're happy or unhappy. Happiness in essence should be you simply being content with what you're doing and your role. Happiness basically equals acceptance in an esoteric manner. If you accept yourself, you're completely as a whole for who you are, you accept yourself totally and unrestrictedly, then that could be defined as happiness. But my point is that you should not bother yourself with thoughts like that. It's like thinking on whether you're going to heaven or hell. It's impractical to say the least. So my advice, simply put, would be screw happiness. Just ignore that. Okay? Ignore the whole concept of happiness and just go about your life and your existence. But don't worry about whether you're unhappy or whether you're happy, or whether society sees you either as one of the two, as happy or unhappy. Just go about your life and do what you want to do and focus on your existence as a whole and what you want to accomplish from it or get out of it. Or if there's nothing that you want to accomplish or get out of it, just accept your existence as a whole, the positive as well as the negative. And I don't mean that, I mean that in an overall sense, of course. I don't mean that if you're someone that finds himself or herself in deep shit and your life is pain and misery, that you shouldn't try to fix it. My point is simply that don't focus on whether fixing all of those things will lead to contentment and thereby happiness. Don't focus on any of those things. Just go about your daily life and your existence overall without focusing on happiness, because happiness is like a social construct. Happiness is literally just that. Okay? If you're content with your existence as a whole, then great for you. No problem. Okay? You can aspire towards that, but only if you want to or only if it's fated. But for the rest, don't focus on it. Like I told you, it's impractical to say the least. Okay? Like I said, it's like stating that it's like thinking about whether you're going to heaven or hell. God is the one that decides whether you're going to go to heaven or hell. It doesn't matter whether you've killed 100 people and whether you've committed 1,000 sins. Nor does it matter, oppositely, if you've done so much good and you've helped so many people adversely. This is also to speak. When it all comes down to it, in the end, when the world comes to an end and everything comes crashing down, blah, 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 etc., and the final day of judgment is upon us, then God will be the one that will decide that fate. But for you to think and constantly ponder over whether you're going upstairs or downstairs is impractical, to say the least, because it's something that's well above and beyond you as an individual. It's something that is beyond one's comprehension, pretty much. All you can do is try to. I'm not saying that you shouldn't try. Just try to do that, but try to do good if you want to. But don't. It's useless thinking about something like that, because it's something that surpasses you as a human being. It's something that surpasses you thought-wise. It's beyond comprehension. It's literally beyond human comprehension. The same way God as a whole is beyond human comprehension. We can try to understand God, but trying to understand God is like an ant trying to understand a human being. God is way too advanced for us in order to understand. We can try, doesn't say that you shouldn't try. You can always try, but don't be surprised if you never get it, because it near guaranteed as far as I know, that you're not going to get it. In that same context, don't break your head over whether you're happy or unhappy, or whether you want happiness. Don't try to measure your life constantly like that, because you're going to cause yourself a lot of harm in terms of overthinking things, because that can be labeled overthinking. You're going way too far when you don't even need to go that far. So my advice again is, don't focus on happiness. Happiness is overrated. Just go about your life, go about your existence, regardless of whether you're in a good mood or a bad mood, regardless of your mental or astral state or your spiritual state, whether it be positive or negative, and just go about your existence as a whole. But do not focus or fixate on the concept of attaining happiness, because it's overrated. Just ignore the thought altogether, and if someone asks you, tell them the same thing. Happiness is overrated. I don't focus on it. Period. That's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.